Good evening one and all. Welcome to Design of Machine Elements Learning Series, Series 8, Component Design for Static Load. The objective of this presentation is to understand stress, strain, factor of safety and theories of failure. Stress. Stress is defined as internal resistance acting per unit area. It is given by the formula sigma is equals to P by A and the unit of stress is Newton per mm square or megapascal. Strain. Strain is defined as rate of change of dimensions to original dimensions. It is a dimensionless parameter. The following are the assumptions for stress-strain analysis. The material is homogeneous. Load is applied gradually. Line of action of force passes through geometric axis. Cross-section is uniform and there is no stress concentration. Here are few different types of stresses. First, tensile stress. Second, compressive stress. Third, axial shear stress or direct shear stress. Let us understand each of them in detail. Tensile stress. Tensile stress is a stress developed in the component because of tensile forces. The tensile forces are pull forces. Because of the pull force, the fibers in the material of the component get elongated. Tensile stress is given by the formula sigma is equals to P by A and tensile stress is positive in nature. Compressive stress. Compressive stress is developed because of compressive forces or push forces. The push forces causes the shortening of fibers in the material of the component. Compressive stresses are negative in nature and given by the formula sigma is equals to P by A. Axial shear stress or direct shear stress. When external forces are acting on the component, it tends to slide in the adjacent plane with respect to one another, resulting in development of shear stresses. Here, as we can see, two plates are pulled against one another and this will develop axial shear stress in the rivets. The axial shear stress is given by the formula tau is equals to P by A. Bending stress. Here is the governing equation for calculating bending stress. It is given by m by I is equals to sigma b by y is equals to E by R, where m is the bending moment in Newton mm, I is the moment of inertia in mm raised to 4, sigma b is the bending stress in Newton per mm square, y is the distance of the neutral axis in mm, E is the Young's modulus of elasticity in Newton per mm square. Young's modulus of elasticity for steel is 2.1 into 10 raised to 5 megapascal and for aluminium is 71,000 megapascal. R is the radius of curvature in mm. The assumptions for the above equation are beam is straight with uniform cross section. The forces acting in the beam lie in a plane perpendicular to the axis of the beam. Material is homogeneous, isotropic and obeys Hooke's law, and plane cross sections remain plane after bending. Now let us understand what is torsional shear stress. Torsional shear stress is calculated by the following governing equation. T by J is equals to tau by R is equals to G theta by L, where T is the torsional moment in Newton mm, J is the polar modulus of inertia in mm raised to 4, tau is the torsional shear stress in Newton per mm square, R is the radius in mm, G is the modulus of rigidity in Newton per mm square. Modulus of rigidity for steel is 81370 megapascal. Theta is the angle of twist in radians and L is the length of the shaft in mm. The assumptions for the above equation are shaft is straight with circular cross section. A plane transverse section remains plane after twisting. Material is homogeneous, isotropic and obeys Hooke's law. Eccentric axial loading. In certain mechanical components, it is found that the line of action of force does not pass through the geometric axis. It is at a distance E known as eccentric distance from the geometric axis. In such a case, how do we calculate the stress acting on the component? Firstly, we try to bring the line of action of force to the geometric axis. This is a tensile force or can be a compressive force and it develops tensile stresses or compressive stresses given by the formula P by A. Because of the moment of the force to the center, a couple is developed, that is P into E. The presence of the couple will develop bending stress. Hence, the governing equation for eccentrically loaded components is sigma is equals to P by A plus or minus P into E into Y divided by I. Factor of safety. Factor of safety is defined as the ratio of failure stress to allowable stress. For ductile materials, factor of safety is yield strength or yield stress, that is SYT divided by allowable stress. For brittle materials, factor of safety is defined as ultimate strength or ultimate stress divided by allowable stress. For ductile materials, the factor of safety is considered for steels, and for brittle materials, the factor of safety, example, cast iron. The unit of stress is Newton per mm square. Here are few factors which will affect the factor of safety. First, effect of failure. As a design engineer, it is important that you understand the working environment of the component. If you find that the failure of the component would result in severe losses, then a higher factor of safety should be considered while designing the component. Load. If the forces acting on the component are static in nature, hence a lower factor of safety can be considered. If the load is of impact type, then a higher factor of safety should be considered. Force analysis. As a design engineer, if you have calculated precisely the forces acting on the component, then a lower factor of safety can be considered. If the forces are uncertain and unpredictable, then you should go for a higher factor of safety. Material. If the material of the component is ductile, homogeneous, then a low factor of safety can be considered. If the material of the component is brittle, non-homogeneous, then a higher factor of safety should be considered. Reliability. Components that function 24/7, a higher factor of safety should be considered. Cost. It is important to note as a design engineer that cost is dependent upon higher factor of safety. Higher the factor of safety, higher the cost. The cost will include material cost, processing cost, etc. Hence, it is important as a design engineer to study the component and its functionalities properly before finalizing the factor of safety. Testing. If the actual working environment of the component is known and testing is done in the actual scenario, then a lower factor of safety can be considered. If the testing environment is unknown, then a higher factor of safety should be considered. Service conditions. As a design engineer, if you find that the component is working in corrosive environment or high temperature zones, then a higher factor of safety should be considered. Quality of manufacture. It is said that if the quality of manufacturing is good, then a lower factor of safety should be considered, and if the quality of manufacturing is poor, then a higher factor of safety should be considered. Here are few guidelines for selection of factor of safety. If the components are made up of cast iron, where ultimate strength is the failure criteria, then a factor of safety of 3 to 5 should be considered. If the components are made of ductile material and are subjected to static forces, and where yield strength is the failure criteria, then an optimum factor of safety of 1.5 to 2 should be considered. If the components are made up of ductile material subjected to fluctuating stresses or fatigue load, where endurance limit is the failure criteria, then a factor of safety of 1.3 to 1.5 should be considered. If the components like cams and followers, gears and rolling contact bearing, in such components the design stresses are calculated by contact stresses using Hertz theory, and where surface endurance limit is the failure criteria, a factor of safety of 1.8 to 2.5 is expected to be considered. Components such as piston rods and power screws, where buckling is the failure criteria and buckling depends upon yield strength, hence in such cases a factor of safety of 3 to 6 should be considered. Principal stresses. It is found that mechanical components are subjected to different types of loads during its work cycle. The stresses due to the forces are normal stresses and shear stresses. Normal stresses act perpendicular to the plane and shear stresses act along the plane. The combined effect of these stresses is given by maximum and minimum principal stress equation. Here are the equations. Sigma 1 is the maximum principal stress, sigma 2 is the minimum principal stress. Sigma 1 is given by sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus or minus, sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus square root of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 whole square plus tau xy square. Let me again repeat the equation. The maximum principal stress sigma 1 is given by sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus square root of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 whole square plus tau xy square. Sigma 2, which is the minimum principal stress, is given by the equation sigma x plus sigma y by 2 minus square root of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 whole square plus tau xy square. The shear stress is given by the formula plus or minus square root of sigma x minus sigma y by 2 whole square plus tau xy square. Here are few theories of failure: maximum principal stress theory, maximum shear stress theory, and maximum distortion energy theory. Maximum principal stress theory is applied for cast iron materials. It is found in cast iron that yield strength due to compression is greater than yield strength in tension. Hence, maximum principal stress theory is used for designing cast iron components. Maximum shear stress theory and maximum distortion energy theory are preferred for ductile materials. Ductile materials have same yield strength in tension as well as in compression. Distortion energy theory predicts yielding results with accuracy and is slightly complicated than maximum shear stress theory. If we study the Morse diagram of maximum shear stress theory, it is hexagonal in nature and it is inside the ellipse of the distortion energy theory. Unit system. The unit for stress is Newton per mm square or megapascal. We understand that 1 Newton per meter square is 1 Pascal. 1 megapascal is 10 raised to 6 Pascal, or 1 megapascal can be written as 10 raised to 6 Newton per meter square. 1 meter is equals to 1000 mm. By substituting this value in this equation, we will get that 1 megapascal is equals to 1 Newton per mm square. 1 megapascal is equals to 1 Newton per mm square. Yield strength in shear permissible, that is SSY, is equal to 0.5 times SYT, where SSY is the yield strength in shear and SYT is the yield strength in tension. The following presentation is made by studying the references: Shigley's Mechanical Engineering Design Textbook 9th edition, Tata McGraw-Hill publication; Design of Machine Elements by K. Ganesh Babu and K. Sridhar, Tata McGraw-Hill publication; and Design of Machine Elements 3rd edition by V.B. Bhandari, Tata McGraw-Hill publications. Thank you very much and wish you a happy learning.